What's going on, everybody? My name is Anthony Sabatino. We're here in the city. We're going to go to a couple different locations today, and I really want to focus a lot on sales and using general EQ and just emotional intelligence to really help the sales process and eventually close more clients. Let's get into the video.
Had to go against the grain to do my own thing. Took a shot in the dark to make my own lane. I think that I'm better going my own way, so I didn't. Now I'm on my own, yeah, I'm on my way. Keep my head up till I find my place. Yeah, I'm on my way, every day I'm getting close. Had to do my own thing now. I know that I'ma make it to the top. Wake up and grind, I don't think I'll ever stop. Cause I made.
So I'm a big fan of utilizing analogies, references, something that allows your brain to really sink in what you're learning or what you're trying to implement. So with sales, right, on a phone call, I'm a big fan of the reference of a doctor-patient relationship. And that scenario creates so much more of an understanding of how you can conduct yourself as the credible figure. So picture yourself as the doctor, right? So when you go into a doctor's office, it could be for a cold, stomach flu, whatever it might be, you're gonna be looking for the doctor's advice, and you're going to be describing your symptoms, your issues to him, and you're going to be expecting that doctor to provide you a solution, a prescription. He's going to write it out, and you're going to go to the pharmacy, you're going to take the medicine, you're going to drink orange juice, you're going to do all the things that he tells you, because there's no disconnect there. You understand that person is there with a solution, you're there to receive it. So to me, I'm a big fan as a salesperson, and just understand that you can help that other person. You can be the doctor in that particular scenario. Go to a doctor's office, you're not planning on arguing with them. You're like, oh, these are my symptoms, like I need medicine, prescribe me something, and then he prescribes you something and you take it. So I want to actually just talk face to camera to the vlog today, and I wanted to explain the real importance behind selling and not the one being sold. So it's really easy to find yourself in a spot where you're on your back foot throughout a sales call if you cannot ensure that you're the authority figure throughout the process. This will create so much more of a result of what you want, because if you're going to allow them to lead, they're only going to lead them in the way out, right? Because they're going to think that if you're not directing them, that they have to direct themselves, which is not what a closer or somebody who wants to close a deal is ready to do. So when you're in a position where you can say to yourself, I'm going to direct this call from A to B, or even like I like to say, from A to close, you're going to get to a point where you can start directing people, and they're going to feel comfortable and feel safe in your conversation. So in sales, one of the ways that you can kind of revert into the more valuable, more revenue-based way of scaling your system is going through the value-based selling, right? So understand that your sales and what you charge should be based around the value that you provide, not simply your competition or maybe even just your overhead, right? So one of the ways that you can mentally wrap your head around actually producing this, because a lot of fear is involved with asking more money, is you can start realizing that selling is not about manipulation. Selling is about providing a win-win, providing a solution to a problem that another person needs. With that comes a whole lot more, happiness and actual fulfillment from providing your service or product. Let's say you're on a sales call, right? And you're going to go through your entire process. You're going to see how they're feeling. You're going to get their responses. You're going to get a sense of what's going the right way, what's going the wrong way. Let's take it to the very end of the call. What's that big blaring question, right? Like, how much does it cost, right? They're always worried about price, which is understandable, obviously. You're going to get to a point where that question will come up. So then the question needs to become for yourself, how can you answer it and reciprocate it properly? That doesn't just give a number and wait for them for a response, right? You have to at least set it up the right way, and usually you're going to get an objection. These objections, though, they're so common that they're almost like realistic to happen every single time, right? So it's very rare you're going to have somebody that are just ready to go right off the bat, and if you are, it's amazing and you don't have to worry about it, right? But let's say in the majority of cases where someone's going to give some sort of an objection, some fear, some issue that they're trying to solve within themselves, it's your job to really come about that, So with me, one of the things that I always look at when I talk about objection handling, right, is ensuring that when you are the one giving it, you have to understand that it's not your responsibility to make them feel just good. It's your responsibility to solve their problem. So most of the time when an objection is occurring, you have to understand that it's some issue, living within them that you need to solve for them. That's why they're there, right? They're on the phone for a reason, right? So that's always something really interesting that I think about a lot. When an objection comes about, think to yourself, we were on the phone for the first, in the first place. We're on the phone for a reason. So there's obviously still something that they need help with, and this objection is just another facade for that. You know what I mean? So the more objections that you give some light to, the better. And there's objections that come from price, time, I don't have the time on my plate right now, whatever the case may be. There's always an objection that you can help them with, because that's why they're on the phone call in the first place. They need help seeing through that with you.
Yeah, I noticed like some people they don't even ask the questions. That's like,
yeah.
Like I was on the phone with someone about an agency, and I want to hire them, but they weren't asking me enough questions. I'm like, you could just, Or you could hear the lady like fearful in the voice about something. She's like, well,
Yeah.
no. I was like, just say, like, you don't have to like,
Yeah.
know your price, like your pricing is gonna not be cheap. Say the number. That's,
Right.
That's what. Because I wouldn't get on a call with you and waste my
Exactly.
time. I want to know what you can do and then how much it would cost me.
Yep.
A lot of people like, yeah, I've noticed that. That's definitely like.
Yeah. Well, think about this too, right? So this comes back to almost like that value pricing method, right? Because like when that woman that you were talking to, just you felt the fear in her voice. She was scared to say the number because she assumed that you would have thought that number was too high and that would have scared you away. Meanwhile, she scared you away before that even came to fruition, right? So what you could do is look back at yourself, the self-awareness of like how you price things and how you actually say the word, this is how much it costs, and like go through that process of the objection and be like, I am worth that, and then actually doubling down on that instead of just assuming. Like, it's just another version of saying no for the other person without having any reality of the situation first. You know, having that confidence and that optimism about what you offer and knowing that it's the best thing for that other person should be all the well worth it to charge someone that amount of money.
The funny thing is her price was actually low, and she didn't.
And that's what happens. Yeah.
So I mean, but the thing, I feel like as you get further into sales, like the more you learn about sales, the better you're.
Yeah.
The more you evolve, then you start to, be able to ask for numbers, and it's like, well, I mean, obviously, I always will play the negotiator side, and sometimes you want to get yourself the best price no matter what.
Sure.
But sometimes you got to pay the premium, and it's worth paying a premium because you're just trying to minimize your own risk at the same time.
Well, think about this. So, with talking about premiums, right? Think about when the premium becomes the norm.
Yeah.
Right. So everybody's going through a season right now or some stage in their business where something sounds preposterous to offer.
Yeah.
Right. If you're at a $1,000 offer, $4,000 sounds crazy. If you're at $4,000, $10,000 sounds crazy. 10 to 20. Everything always sounds crazy at the next level. But literally the only thing that's stopping you, other than the service and product itself, is your ability to ask and say the number. So having that confidence to actually say it, and then not expect a no, but expect a yes, or just be able to handle the objection when some issue or insecurity is coming out on their end when you do say the number. That's all that there is to the game, because you will be your own limit every single time if you can't wrap your head around that process. So one of the things I did last week that I want to keep doing on an every week basis is basically ask my community on Instagram a question that they want me to answer or explain, or a topic they want me to talk about on the vlog itself, and that's what I'm going to do right now. So regarding sales, which we've been talking about a lot today, one of the questions that I got here on Instagram was, what's the difference between an inbound lead to an outbound lead? So basically, the difference would be who reaches out to who, right? And the real value in that is that if somebody reaches out to you, the ball is in your court now, meaning you hold the leverage of what's going to happen next, because you're obviously aware they didn't reach out to you for their health, right? So they're at a point where they might need some help. They might be unsure of what that help is. They might be unsure of what you offer. All of these things can be true, but one thing is for sure is that they reached out to you for a reason, right? So now it's your job to figure that out, which means you hold the leverage in that scenario. The other end of the spectrum is if an outbound lead, right, meaning you're reaching out to them, you don't necessarily hold as much leverage anymore because you don't actually know if they need your help just yet, right? It could be true, but you just don't know it just yet. So what you have to do is play the game a little bit differently and have them, welcomed into your realm of things, and that way you can kind of figure that out if that outbound lead, which was initially cold, can become warm and then go through the step-by-step process, basically, becoming a client if that were to work for you. Either way, both of these strategies work. The inbound leads are more beneficial in my opinion because you hold a lot more value, and it's just an easier transition to prospect to client in my opinion, and it just feels like a more win-win solution. But either way, I hope that makes a lot of sense, and I hope you can take that into your business and your reaching out process and the DMs and instant messages that you get for your business, and can kind of roll with that from there. Good?
I like it.
To me, like when I think about DMing somebody, let's say you are implementing some sort of an outreach, right? One of the things that I've found just uber successful has been if you can ask, because think about it this way, let me take a step back first. If you are trying to figure out the blaring question of what's not working, right? Because you're obviously the person with the solution to that issue, right? So if you know what's not working, then you can dictate whether or not you provide that solution, right? So it's a really important question. But people come out of the gate so fast with that question, sometimes it's very scary, turns people off, it's too aggressive, whatever the case may be. So what I've done, and it has worked really well for me, and I've really explained a lot to my clients and has worked in multiple different scenarios for them as well, which is why I'm pretty confident in saying that it works, is psychologically, for whatever reason, if you ask somebody what's been going well or what's working for them or what's going beneficial or what's successful for them first, and they tell you, right, and they feel comfortable enough to tell you that information, what ends up happening is if you can then ask them on the other hand what's not been going well after the fact, then for whatever reason they feel very comfortable because you've given value, you've asked something of importance to them first, and then you're like, okay, well, if they are comfortable enough to ask me what's going well, I can then ask them what's not going well, which again always comes back to what you need to know in order to provide the solution to it. So really, if we can kind of boil all this down to like one simple strategy, if you're DMing somebody, show that appreciation for their successes and their implementation of what they've done up to that point first, then be able to then open the door and have permission to ask what's not been going well. And from there, you'll get what you want anyway. You'll get the information that you're looking for. But doing it, to me, the proper way, asking them what's been going well, what's working for them, it gives you so much more of an open door policy. It makes them feel more comfortable. It makes them feel like you're there for a reason, and it's not just to scam them or just to take money from them. Because you could very easily just be asking what's been going well just to network, right? And sometimes that is actually the case. But to come out of the gate and just figure out what's not going right is, to me, is just too aggressive and is not wholesome. It's not holistic. If you come into the door, with a little bit more, appreciation and respect, I think it's just pays volumes down the road, and every single time it's worked for me. So I think it's a really valuable strategy.
One thing I notice a lot of people in like the media shit, media industry, the first thing they do when they see like the early guys, they'll like hit someone up and be like, your content is trash.
Yeah.
Let me fix it. Pay me.
Yeah.
Instead of like, hey, I see you're doing, but that's like something where it's like, oh, when you start changing the approach, like, you're doing this, I think this is really cool. Here's how you can add to that.
Mm-hmm. It's just, to me, it's another segue of, providing free value. Because maybe you don't have to give them like a free, strategy of like what is working, what would go better if you did it this way for free, right? But even just showing the appreciation towards it, like that does more than you might think, because of, like you just said, amount of people who are just coming out here saying, oh, you're doing this wrong, pay me. It's not a valuable sales strategy, because people don't want to pay people for nonsense. They want to pay people that have solutions to their problems. And to me, the most respectful way and holistic and authentic way to ask somebody what their problem is to first show them and ask them what's been going well and give praise to what they've done thus far, which then opens the door, like I said. So like with that, obviously it might work for some, but it always just comes back to that transactional quick buck mentality that I don't think really is long-term or sustainable. But when I think about, let's say you're on a phone call, right? You're on a sales call with somebody, with a prospect that is warm, and someone that is definitely interested. It's just a matter of closing that deal. One factor that goes really unnoticed and is underestimated a lot of the times is your optimism and your cadence, right? So like the way you speak is another way to say that. So some people, I talk fairly fast, right? Other people might talk fairly slow. So that matters more than people think. So the way that you are presented over the phone, because they can't, feel your energy, you're not in the room with them most of the time, unless you are in that spot where you have to rely basically on your voice to dictate all of these emotions, all of these feelings on that person's end that require them to say yes or pull out a credit card, right? So it matters a lot. It has a lot of value to it. So with me, it's really important to always have that optimistic point of view, which, think about it with anything, right? If you go into a retail shop and that person's just dull or really slow-spoken or just not there all the way, you're not going to feel as, energetic or positive about the buying experience. It just makes, it's simple, right? It happens in everyday life, walking into any store. But on a sales call, it works the same way, right? So like when you're on that phone and you're just dull or you're low level, that other person isn't going to reciprocate that in the same way, right? So people are much more willing to pull out a credit card, pay money, and be excited, which is ideally what you want, to get started working with you or buy your product or whatever the case or business you have, if they also feel optimistic. Right? And the only way they're going to get there is not going to be from themselves. They're not going to build it from within, from nothing, if you're not even there. You're the one providing, right? So if you're not even optimistic about what's going on, it would be crazy to think they would be, right? So that optimism is really important. The other thing that I said was cadence, right? So like the level in which you speak, how fast, how slow, the ups and downs, the tonality of it matters a lot. You can really guide someone, in the way that you want them to be, as well as where they want to be, with your cadence. So the faster you speak certain words, the slower that you speak others, you put emphasis on certain things and kind of, move your tone up and down in a way that helps, to me is very, very important. I do it a lot when I'm trying to place emphasis on what I want them to hear, because it means more to them. Because whether you've done your research in the past, which I've always done, or I always recommend to clients is always making sure that you've done research prior to getting on the call, so you know what is of value to them. Placing emphasis and talking slower there, that just only helps them because it really lets it sink in, doesn't just blow over like maybe some of the other words that you may have spoken 10 minutes earlier, right? And having them remember that tonality will matter later in the call when you say, hey, this is how much it costs. Hey, this is how much time I need from you. This is how long it takes to ship to your house or your business, right? These are questions that some people have some fear towards, and having something that just for whatever reason sinks in differently, meaning the tonality was the cause of that, will make a lot of difference in someone saying yes to you.
I noticed one mistake that a lot of people I've seen, they never know where to stop.
That too.
Yeah, that is like the I think I can think of times where probably I've done it, and other people I know have done it, where you're getting close to the sale, and you obviously had so much, like, this is like one thing with sales scripts too, where people they stick to the script way too hard. Yeah. And like,
you have something out on the screen behind you or something, if you have just a ton of words or pictures and things like that, like just overloading the page, and you're still talking to it, it's too much, right? So it happens in different places too, not just speech, right? Where you're talking too much and you already know somebody's, bitten, basically, like you said. But if you just are talking or trying to pitch something or, be in the moment with something, and you just have a ton of chaos going on in the background, they're not going to be number one focused, but also number two, giving you all the attention that they need to fully comprehend what you're saying, because that's what matters. Right, same thing with you. So let's say you're at the end of a sales call and you just need to stop talking, say the number, and get their response. Most people are scared of getting their response, so they won't stop talking, and they'll ramble and ramble and ramble, which again just cuts their entire process out at the knees. What is going on, everybody? Thank you so much for watching vlog number 4. If you have any questions at all, as always, please leave them down in the comments and I'll be happy to talk about them in future vlogs. Hope you enjoyed the video. Talk to you guys soon.